Welcome to Keith and I Don't Tread on Anyone. This is how to debunk libertarianism. Libertarianism is basically a philosophy which attempts to give a moral foundation for the principle of liberty or freedom. By embracing the non-aggression principle, no person or group of persons has the right to initiate force against another person or group of persons, and the self-defense principle. To not recognize the moral legitimacy of self-defense is to justify violence and aggression in the first place. An individual or a group of people have the moral right to forcibly stop another from committing an act of aggression or uninvited, forceful interference. So that is a pretty falsifiable theory. All the statist has to do is explain why institutionalized violence is morally justified, then explain why the state should monopolize said violence. So we're not talking about can a starving person steal bread to save his life? Well, notice how they just have a person in that lifeboat scenario. It's not saying, does one group of people have the right to steal on behalf of others who are in need? If it's something that's morally justified in doing, we don't have to have separate standards for the state. It would be like saying, can the Catholic Church steal a Hot Pocket to save a homeless person's life? Okay, sure. Okay, so then that means the Catholic Church has the right to take 10% of everyone's income annually, and the right to force us to fund their education systems, and the right to force our kids to attend these education systems? Of course not. So that's why the institutionalized part of the refutation is necessary. And then they have to explain why. If taxation's all about, this good stuff that, is the foundation of society, you have to explain why this certain group of people, the Congress group, the government group, the military group, should have a monopoly on this violence. If it's something so good, well, then obviously any person or group of persons should engage in this thing that is just inherently good and help society move forward. The libertarian is basically saying that voluntarism is superior to violence, both morally and economically. So first, explain why violence on a mass scale over an extended period of time, forever, is justified, and then why only a certain group of people have this right that is inherently justified. In other words, you cannot morally delegate rights to other people that you yourself don't have. You can consider this situation. If John told you that you had to obey him or he would violate you, that would be wrong. Even if John claims that because he and his friends are in the majority, you must obey or be punished, that would still be wrong. Even if John and his friends vote to have an institution work on their behalf and that you must obey its dictates or be punished, that would still be wrong. If you understand this basic concept, then you understand that government neither has the legitimate or lawful right to violate you just because some people decided to vote for it. Another angle that the statists could take in refuting libertarianism is explain why a coercively funded monopoly is superior to voluntarily funded competition. A good example is, well, if there's not a state, there might be judges in courts that are corrupt. Well, yes, I fully concede that is something not only possible, but probably will happen when 7 billion people are acting voluntarily in the general sense. What that argument leaves out is that that also applies to government. Government judges can be bought off. Oh, but what if there's a security company in a voluntary society and they just don't protect people? Yeah, see, that's why we need a state. Well, the same exact thing can happen. What makes the statist position unique is that they believe in a coercively funded monopoly to achieve this thing. The voluntarist says, I don't know how to achieve it. I just have the principle that people should be acting on voluntary grounds. That's how you come up with the term voluntarism, pretty much coined and popularized by Auburn Herbert, meaning the radical philosophy which proves that people own themselves and have the right to live free from aggression against their body or property from any group of people, whether they're the Congress group, whether they're a demographic, whether they're the wise group of people, whether they're the masters, older white. This is a principle that applies consistently. So there is the brief explanation for statists on how to refute this theory. You don't have to go digging up Ron Paul letters from 50 years ago. You can just basically focus all your efforts right here on why explaining institutionalized violence is morally justified and why the state should have a monopoly on said violence. Thank you for watching. Keith Knight, don't tread on anyone.
The same.
Okay, consistent with the maximum freedom of each individual as long as he doesn't interfere with other individuals pursuing their own freedom.
But as a matter of fact, there are two really different versions of libertarianism. The more extreme version of libertarianism has one central principle. It is immoral to initiate force on anyone else. That's the prime view. That's the Ayn Rand type libertarianism.
So the coercive power of the state is immoral in and of itself.
Immoral in and of itself. And all you need to know that something of the state is immoral is whether it involves the initiation of force. That's one brand. Now,